On behalf of Junior Achievement, we welcome you to the 35th Annual Chicago Business Hall of Fame. My name is Aaron Vera, and I'm an 8th grade student from Hester Junior High in Franklin Park. We are delighted that you have joined us tonight to recognize 4 individuals who have made significant and lasting contributions to the Chicago business community. Junior Achievement's purpose is to inspire and prepare young people to succeed in the global economy. JA's programs help students like me see the connection between what they learn in school and the world of work. I'm so excited to kick off this year's event by introducing our MC for the evening, Taman Bradley. Mr. Bradley is a proud Chicago native and a graduate of Howard University in Washington, D.C. He is an anchor of WGN Evening News and WGN News at 9 on Saturdays and Sundays. Mr. Bradley is also the station's political reporter. Please help me in welcoming Taman Bradley.
You can keep going, Aaron. That was really good. Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here tonight for the 35th year of the Chicago Business Hall of Fame. Tonight, we share the stories of 4 exceptional new laureates: Brenda C. Barnes, Frank M. Clark, Raymond F. McCaskey, and Dr. Joan C. Smith. This is a very special group, not only because of the imprint they have made in the Chicago area, but because of the lessons they have taught the community about innovation, collaboration, and teamwork. These are just some of the 21st century skills that Junior Achievement of Chicago teaches students every day, and that they will teach 600,000 students this school year. I'd like to thank each of you for your continued support of the mission. If you haven't taught a JA program yet, please join over 14,000 of your peers who volunteer for JA in classrooms across 12 Chicago area counties this year. I guarantee by doing so, you will have an impact on a student's life and truly make a difference. I'd also like to thank our sponsors. We have had tremendous support this year at the presenting platform sponsorship level. We've also received great support from our gold, silver, bronze, and individual student ambassador sponsors, which you can find listed in your program book. I also have to give a special thanks to our blue ribbon panel of former laureates, chaired by Jim Farrell. They did an outstanding job with the selection process. The slideshow playing as you entered tonight showcased the former honorees of the Chicago Business Hall of Fame, and this evening is a tribute to all they have done to help create Chicago's history and to make it such a great place to conduct business. JA has been honoring the most distinguished business leaders of Chicago since 1983 and has provided 169 laureates with the honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I'm pleased to see former inductees here with us to support the new class of 2017. Thank you very much to the former laureates for being here. And we have 4 very talented young speakers. They're here to tell each laureate's story this evening. Each student was specifically chosen as a model of ambition and achievement, mirroring the images of who will be inducted tonight. And now it's time to bring out our first speaker, Jamila Davis. She is here to tell the story of Brenda Barnes. Jamila is an 8th grader at John J. Pershing Magnet for the Humanities in Chicago. She is on the school's dance team and has participated in JA programs led by volunteers from Pepsi, the company where Brenda spent the majority of her career. She enjoys working with younger students, and her teachers say she's an advocate for her peers. So please welcome to the stage, Jamila Davis.
Mr. Bradley. Tonight, I'm honored to tell you about the late Brenda Barnes. Brenda was a sharp businesswoman, a dedicated mom, and a loyal friend. In both her work and home life, she was fiercely passionate and driven. Brenda often referred to her life as chapters in a book. Her first chapter began in the small northwest suburb of River Grove, Illinois. She came from a hardworking and modest family. Her father was a pipe fitter, and her mother stayed at home to help raise her and her 6 sisters. The 7 girls were often referred to as the 7 Dwarfs, and always the shy and humble one of the group. Brenda naturally became known as bashful. But underneath this shy exterior was a fierce woman who, in later chapters of her life, will work tirelessly for her family, her health, and the company she led. From a young age, Brenda showed an aptitude for business, voted most likely to succeed in her high school class. She went on to study business and economics at Augustana College, and then earned her MBA from Loyola University. It was during her time in graduate school that she began her chapter at PepsiCo, first starting at Wilson Sporting Goods, which was owned by the company at the time. After Brenda received her MBA, she was promoted to PepsiCo's Frito-Lay division. From there, Brenda quickly moved up within the ranks, becoming known for her drive and perseverance. In the 20 years she spent at Pepsi, she worked hard and was recognized with increasingly prominent roles. During this time, she also had 3 children, Jeff, Aaron, and Brian. She meticulously balanced management positions with her family, and the once bashful child became a commanding force within the company. In 1996, she landed the top job as CEO of Pepsi's North America business. While leading the $8 billion company, she juggled the demands of her high-pressure job with raising her young children. She was known to wake up at 5 a.m. each day to work for a few hours before getting her kids ready for school. And on any given night, if she wasn't at home, she would excuse herself at 7 p.m., no matter what she was doing, to say goodnight to her children. After some time, the demands of leading a company and raising her children brought Brenda to a crossroads, and in 1997, she made a decision that made headlines around the world. She announced that she would be ending her chapter at Pepsi to spend more time with her 3 children. Her announcement sparked a major work-life debate, with many praising her brave decision while others lamented that it sent the wrong message to women in the workplace. Despite the commentary, Brenda stuck by her decision, one that she later recalled was the best of her life. During this chapter, she was able to watch her children grow and spend more time with them during some of the most important years of their lives. All the while, she still managed to serve on several corporate boards and was even named to Fortune's list of most powerful women. When her children became older, she felt it was time to start a new chapter and accepted an offer for a top executive role at Sara Lee. She was soon named CEO. At the time, Sara Lee was suffering from declining sales and lack of focus, and that was part of the appeal for Brenda. Never one to back down from a challenge, she approached the role with the fierceness and discipline she was known for, and led the company through a major restructuring. In 2010, Brenda suffered a stroke, which left the left side of her body paralyzed. At this point, she began her toughest chapter yet, her rehabilitation. She tackled it with the same zeal that took her so far in the corporate world. During months of intensive rehab, Barnes had to relearn to walk, speak, shower, even brush her teeth. She wouldn't return to the corporate world again, but the years following her stroke reaffirmed her faith in her family and friends and gave her a new perspective on her life and her health. Last January, Brenda passed away and the world lost a truly remarkable woman. And although she may have completed her last chapter, her book has certainly not come to an end. Her kindness, compassion, and perseverance are remembered by family, friends, colleagues, and even by those whom she's never even met. She serves as an inspiration to us all, and her induction into the Junior Achievement Chicago Hall of Fame is certainly a chapter she would have been proud of. Ladies and gentlemen, here tonight to accept Brenda's Junior Achievement Chicago Business Hall of Fame Award is her son, Brian Barnes.
First, I want to say thank you to Jamila for doing justice to my mom's story. As introduced, I'm Brian, Brenda's youngest son, but I'm also joined in the audience by my brother Jeff, my sister Erin, my mom's sister and brother-in-laws, and her partner Sal. On behalf of all of us, I can't convey what an honor it is to accept this prestigious award in recognition of my mom. Thank you to JA and all in attendance for this gift. As you heard in my mom's story, she had an illustrious career at Pepsi, but it was stepping down to take care of my siblings and me that first thrust her into the spotlight. Now, having a top executive quit her job to focus 100% of her time on raising you really puts the pressure on. But I was beyond fortunate to have her as my mom, have the time with her that I did, and try to learn from all the wisdom that she freely gave. I was asked to share some of that wisdom and her thoughts that led to her success. I have no shortage of value she tried to instill in me over the years, but I came to the realization that all of her success came down to one simple way she lived her life. She gave her entire being, all her time and energy, to making other people's lives better. Being generous is what drove her, what led to her success, and was the example she set for loved ones. With her businesses, that meant working tirelessly so that she could delight hundreds of millions of customers around the globe. For the hundreds of thousands of workers at the companies she led, that meant providing a sense of purpose in addition to the paycheck to support their families. For her direct reports, that meant giving the gift of high expectations to help with personal and professional growth. With those less fortunate, that meant being philanthropic to those who didn't have the same advantages. With strangers, that meant giving them the respect that any person deserves. With loved ones, that meant giving unconditional support. And finally, that meant leaving the workforce at the height of her career to simply be mom to my brother, sister, and me. Looking at those previously inducted into the Hall of Fame, as well as the laureates tonight, you can tell they have a similar passion for improving the lives of those around them. And they wouldn't be recipients if they weren't successful in doing so. That's why it's such a privilege to accept this honor on my mom's behalf. It's a testament to the fact that she was successful in her goal and was able to positively impact the lives of so many. The same can be said of the fellow laureates tonight, Mr. Clark, Ms. McCaskey, and Dr. Smith. I am personally a user of the services offered by Mr. Clark's and Mr. McCaskey's former companies and have nothing but positive reviews. But I did want to take a second and share the personal connection I and my family have with Dr. Joanne Smith and her organization. While my mom was the chairman and CEO of Sara Lee, she suffered a severe hemorrhagic stroke. As a result, she had emergency brain surgery and was in a coma for several weeks following the procedure. After awakening from the coma, she was unable to swallow, sit up straight, walk, and struggled with toy puzzles designed for young toddlers. In my mind, for all intents and purposes, she had passed away. Luckily, she received rehabilitation at RIC, now the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and they did not share my pessimism. The treatment as both an inpatient and outpatient returned my mom to her former glory and her usual self, and her progress passed every expert's predictions of potential outcomes. Dr. Joanne Smith's organization gave the invaluable gift of 6 additional years with my mom that my family and I might not otherwise have had. Thank you. So thank you to JA, which is a tremendous organization that's inspiring the next generation to follow in these inspiring footsteps. While I wish nothing more than to be in the audience watching my mom accept this award, my family and I are tremendously thankful to accept this great honor on her behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing your mother's inspiring story with us. And on behalf of all of us, I extend our sympathies to you and your family in your loss. And thank you for honoring her tonight and allowing us to honor her. Our second student speaker is Artis McCassell, who will be introducing Frank Clark. Artis is a senior at Roe Clark Math and Science Academy, the high school that Mr. Clark helped found. Artis's favorite subject is history, and he likes to play basketball. His plan after high school is to continue his education and attend Davidson College. After college, Artis wants to become an attorney. Please welcome to the stage Artis McCassell.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. It is my honor tonight to introduce Mr. Frank M. Clark. Mr. Clark is the retired chairman and CEO of ComEd and describes his inspiring career as an ascension from the mailroom to the boardroom. Mr. Clark was born on September the 3rd, 1945 in Chicago. Mr. Clark is one of 8 siblings and spent his childhood in Chicago, where he attended Wadsworth Elementary and graduated from Hirsch High School. Mr. Clark earned degrees in law and business administration from DePaul University. He went on to earn an honorary doctorate of humane letters from Governor State University and an honorary doctorate of law from DePaul University. Mr. Clark married his wife, Vera, when he was 20 years old. They have 2 sons, Frank III and Steve. He began his career in 1966 working in the mailroom at Commonwealth Edison, also known as ComEd. ComEd is the largest electric utility in Illinois and a unit of Chicago-based Exelon Corporation. Shortly after starting his career, Mr. Clark was drafted into the military, and his time at ComEd was interrupted by a tour of duty in Vietnam. In the same year, Mr. Clark's son, Frank III, was born. After serving 2 years in the military, Mr. Clark returned to ComEd, where he continued to rise with the company. Mr. Clark worked his way up from the mailroom and made a name for himself by playing a crucial role in lobbying for the landmark 1998 electricity deregulation bill through the General Assembly. Mr. Clark went on to hold various positions at ComEd. To name a few, he was the Senior Vice President of Corporate and Governmental Affairs, Western Division Commercial Manager, Public Affairs Manager, and Senior Staff Attorney to both the Rate and Regulatory Affairs Departments. While holding various titles, Mr. Clark worked in both corporate support and with the daily operations of the company. He also worked in the customer service operations, marketing and sales, governmental and community affairs, and human resources. Mr. Clark was appointed to Senior Vice President of Exelon Energy Delivery and President of ComEd in 2001. In 2005, he was named Chairman and CEO of ComEd, and he began overseeing the day-to-day operations of the company. Mr. Clark was the first African-American chairman and CEO of ComEd. Under Mr. Clark, ComEd provided services to nearly 3.8 million customers across northern Illinois. That's 70% of the state's population. During his time at ComEd, Mr. Clark was known for evolving the company's work environment to provide opportunities for women, minorities, and individuals from non-traditional career paths. He also strived to increase diversity among management. In 2012, after 46 years of service, Mr. Clark retired from ComEd. Since 2015, Mr. Clark has served as president of the Chicago Board of Education. As the son of a CPS teacher and a graduate from the Chicago school system, Mr. Clark is dedicated to improving education in Chicago. He also co-founded my school, the Roe Clark Math and Science Academy, a high school on Chicago's west side specializing in math and science. Mr. Clark is the retired chairman of the Board of Directors for BMO Financial Corporation and the director of Aetna and Waste Management, where he chairs the Compensation Committee. Outside of his business endeavors, Mr. Clark is very involved in the community. He serves on the board of the Museum of Science and Industry, DePaul University, and the Big Shoulders Fund. He is a trustee of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois and president of the Business Leadership Council. He is also the past chairman of the Executive Committee for the Chicago Community Trust and the life trustee and past board chair of the Adler Planetarium. Mr. Clark is a member of the Chicago Bar Association, Commercial Club of Chicago, and Executives Club. I think it's safe to say he's a very busy man. Mr. Clark has received numerous awards, including the Order of Lincoln Award, National Humanitarian Award from the National Conference for Community and Justice, and the prestigious History Makers Award. He was named to U.S. Black Engineering Information Technology magazine's 100 Most Important Blacks in Technology, and was among the 50 most powerful black executives in America by Fortune magazine. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Frank M. Clark to the stage.
It's all about the hair. When you have that much hair, you never know that you'll look up one day and things will change. Artists, you just did a fantastic job. I'm just so proud of how well you presented yourself, and I'm sure your parents, and I can tell you the school is very, very proud of you. Let me acknowledge all the past laureates, and of course congratulate the other 3 awardees tonight. And Brian, I knew your mother, and the pictorial was wonderful. It captured, I think, her spirit and her leadership. And you know, when we have these types of presentations and people say wonderful things about you, this one had the, Brian, what you said in the pictorial had the added advantage of being absolutely true. So your mother was just a wonderful person. So everything that I've accomplished has been because of people who have supported me, people who have shown me love. I'll start by recognizing my mother, who taught me from childhood to believe in myself, and my wife of 51 years who, and I emphasize this, reinforced the best in me and helped me to accept and improve on the worst in me. The latter is a little bit of a work in progress. My wife was a school psychologist, and I get the benefits of her practice. I've also been blessed by 2 extraordinary sons, Frank and Stephen, and frankly, 2 of the best lifelong friends any person could ever hope for or be blessed with, and that's John Hooker and Ernest Wilson. Ernest is here and John's on his way, but you can all tell him I said something really nice about him. As I look back over my life, there have been some notable milestones that helped focus me towards what I consider my life's work. About 50 years ago, and a whole lot more hair, I got the opportunity to serve my country, and while some moments were truly, frankly, terrifying, I learned that in a foxhole, there's virtually no racism. That experience taught me to look at everyone as individuals and not to judge people based on preconceived and often negative stereotypes. I spent the bulk of my adult life working for one company, Commonwealth Edison. Then that career did, in fact, take me from the mailroom to the boardroom. And I'll tell you candidly, the boardroom is a lot more fun. Along the way, I took every opportunity to develop future civic, social, and corporate leaders. And that would include 2 outstanding ladies, one that runs the company today, and the most recent chancellor of the Chicago City Colleges. I've also tried to identify and mentor non-traditional leaders. By that I mean people who on the surface didn't appear to fit the acceptable corporate image. This often meant women and people of color. I made sure that they got a chance to succeed or not. In my experience, most exceeded my expectations. Like other honorees tonight, I have strong involvement with civic and social organizations, some of which impact the lives of our most vulnerable people, namely young minority boys and girls, and at the other end of the spectrum, the elderly. I also try to do all that I can to increase opportunities for economic development and business growth, specifically in the African American community. These areas will continue to be a major focus for the balance of my life. Now, I want to end my comments by sharing some insights on an area that's of primary interest to me today, and that's education. My experience as president of the Chicago Board of Education has given me an even deeper appreciation for all that is the Chicago Public Schools. Now, I'm going to give you some real quick statistics that are just mind-blowing. CPS serves 371,000 students in over 646 schools. The schools reflect Chicago's diverse population, 47% Hispanic at CPS, 39% African American, 14% Caucasian and Asian. 78% of our students are economically disadvantaged. CPS is the largest, now this will really surprise you, CPS is the largest individual food service operation in Chicago and across the state of Illinois. Each day, CPS serves over 365,000 free meals each day. And we provide nearly 69 million free meals each year. We provide doctors, nurses, and free clinics to students and their families in many of our schools. Now let's turn to academics. Just recently, CPS was recognized by Stanford University's Center for Education Policy Analysis as being in the top 5% of all school districts in the United States with respect to students' progress. The top 5 high schools in Illinois, according to U.S. News and World Report, are CPS high schools. And CPS high schools are, 7 of our high schools are in the top 10 in the state of Illinois, and all of those 7 schools are ranked nationally. Now, we got a lot of schools, and I'm not suggesting having a handful of top schools means that we're doing everything as well as we can, but the fact is, people often overlook there's some good work being done inside of those CPS classrooms. And since my wife is a past teacher and my mother and a sister, you know, I've got to tell you, they've all done a good job. And while our goal is to do better, according to the University of Chicago's most recent report, CPS high school graduates enroll in a 4-year college or university at the national average of 44%. That doesn't sound overwhelming, but the fact is that is the national average, of which we were far below, and at least we've caught up with it with the expectation of doing even more. And I'm going to conclude my remark with a very short quote from someone I consider to be a very great man, and Ray McCaskey would completely agree with me on this. And I hope you don't have the same quote, Ray. It just occurred to me, Ray is an expert on Lincoln. Here's the quote: "Among the subject of education, not presuming to dictate any plan or system respecting it, I can only say that I view it as the most important subject which we as a people can be engaged in." These are the words of a young Abraham Lincoln from his first political announcement in New Salem, Illinois in 1832. And those words still are true today. And for me, it was a resounding call to action for the entire business community. So for all of the students here tonight, and for all of those participating in junior achievement, my hope is that you will do all you can to pursue, many of you hopefully will pursue a career in business, and that you will use the talents that God has given you to do the best you can to do what I consider the most important call to arms I can think of, a responsibility to give back to this great city and this great community. Thank you very much for this wonderful honor. I hope to live up to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Some wonderful advice. Our next student presenter is Ina Trita-Free-Lova. Yeah, I think so. She'll correct me if that's wrong. She's going to introduce Raymond McCaskey. Ina is a sixth grader at Lake Louise Elementary in Palatine, which is the same school district where Mr. McCaskey attended. Also similar to Mr. McCaskey, Ina is avid in mathematics. She even takes advanced math classes at the junior high school. She is bilingual and loves to play the violin. Ina would like to go to Northwestern University and become an actress or lawyer someday. You could probably do both. Please help me in welcoming Ina Trita-Free-Lova.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Raymond F. McCaskey, who is the retired president and CEO of Healthcare Service Corporation, or more widely known as Blue Cross Blue Shield. Mr. McCaskey was born in 1944 in Chicago and grew up in Palatine, Illinois. He graduated from Palatine High School. As a teenager, Mr. McCaskey excelled in math and was mentored by his math teacher, who exposed Mr. McCaskey to different career opportunities where he could put his math skills to use. After high school, Mr. McCaskey attended Wartburg College in Waverly, Iowa. While working towards his mathematics degree, he met his wife, Judy. After graduation in 1965, they were married and moved back to Palatine. After moving back to Illinois, Mrs. McCaskey began her 40-plus year career as a first-grade teacher, and Mr. McCaskey joined CNA Insurance in the group actuarial department. While working at CNA, he earned a master's degree in mathematics from DePaul University. Mr. McCaskey began working at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois in 1976 as the actuary in charge of pricing. The late 70s and early 80s, Mr. McCaskey's first years on the job were challenging times for Blue Cross due to regulatory requirements that called for Blue Cross to not just insure medical expenses, but to also work with the entire healthcare community to hold costs down. Working his way up from being an actuary, Mr. McCaskey's responsibilities continued to grow, and he helped lead the organization through a significant financial turnaround. He became Chief Financial Officer in 1981, and in April of 1993, Mr. McCaskey was named Chief Executive Officer of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. In the early 90s, there was a major push for industry consolidation due to healthcare costs rising and competition intensifying. This led to a merger between Blue Cross in Illinois and New Mexico, and Oklahoma also joined the multi-state company. Mr. McCaskey led this transition and assured that Healthcare Service Corporation would remain a leader in the industry, while working hard to ensure his customers received the best quality of healthcare. Mr. McCaskey worked diligently to make the company a great place to work for its employees. During his tenure as CEO, a new 54 corporate headquarters building was designed and constructed in downtown Chicago. In 2008, Mr. McCaskey retired as CEO from Blue Cross Blue Shield and left the company nearly serving 12 million people. Not only did Mr. McCaskey lead the largest customer-owned health insurer in the United States and the fourth largest health insurer in the country overall, but he also emerged as a leader in corporate civic responsibility and workplace diversity. Mr. McCaskey created the company's first diversity councils and programs, assuring that opportunities for advancement were open to all employees. His work earned him Chicago United's first annual Changing How Chicago Works Award in 2002. The list of civic and charitable groups that Mr. McCaskey and Blue Cross supported is long and varied. He worked with numerous healthcare groups such as American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, and CEOs Against Cancer. He served on the boards of the Lincoln Foundation, Epilepsy Foundation, and the Commercial Club. In 2008, Mr. McCaskey also chaired the United Way campaign for Metro Chicago. Mr. McCaskey continues to support the community in his retirement. He is board member of the Chicago Shakespeare Theater. He is the current chair of the board for the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and for Life Directions Chicago. He serves on the board for Chicago Humanities, is co-chair of Opera House Arts in Maine, and is president of the American Folk Art Society. Beyond his dedication to Chicago's community, Mr. McCaskey remains loyal to his alma mater, Wartburg College. Mr. McCaskey serves on the Board of Regents of Wartburg College. Mr. and Mrs. McCaskey endowed an annual scholarship to provide tuition assistance for inner-city Chicago students attending Wartburg. Today, Mr. and Mrs. McCaskey remain involved in the many lives of the students who receive their scholarships. Of the long list of his accomplishments, Mr. McCaskey remains steadfastly proud of his family. Mr. and Mrs. McCaskey have 2 children, both of whom they adopted. Their daughter Megan is from Korea, and their son Ryan was adopted from Vietnam. Today, Ryan is a chef and owns Acadia Restaurant in the South Loop of Chicago, and Megan is an architect who works for Chicago Corporation in Minneapolis. Mrs. McCaskey continues to impact the educational community by tutoring students in the city of Chicago. When Mr. and Mrs. McCaskey aren't volunteering their time in Chicago, they enjoy retirement life on a small island in Maine. Having worked his way through Blue Cross Blue Shield and spending countless hours bettering the community, Mr. McCaskey is a shining example of the heart of Chicago's business community. Now, it is my honor to ask you to please join me in welcoming Mr. Raymond McCaskey.
Well, thank you, Ina, for your very generous and well-delivered introduction. It's truly appreciated. And I do have to say, the group here is privileged tonight to be able to see some pictures that I have been able to suppress for decades. I do add my thanks to the whole Junior Achievement team, the board, staff, and volunteers, for the incredibly positive impact that you have on the lives of so many of the young people in our community. And to my fellow laureates and those past honorees, I am truly humbled and honored to be in your company. It's an amazing list of leaders whose collective personal histories make up a significant portion of the history of our great city. As I look back over all my years, I do believe that I had, from a very early age, a solid set of values, a good work ethic, and a true desire to do a great job at whatever it was I was trying to do. But I do have to confess that in my early working years, the driving motivation for my employment was to earn an income that allowed me to do and enjoy all sorts of non-work related activities with family and friends. As I progressed, I did become more career focused. I continued to study to achieve the qualifications as an actuary and to generally advance my career, adding more responsibility, authority, recognition, and rewards. The real turning point in my career, however, didn't come until after I had joined Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And I can't tell you a specific date or day or an event, but I just know that one day I realized that what made work so exciting, what made me want to try harder, and what made me glad to get up and go to the office every day wasn't just the prospect of a next promotion, a bigger paycheck, or a greater title. it was altogether something bigger. I realized that what I was doing, together with my colleagues at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, was making a real difference in the lives of many, many people. Together, we were striving to bring the highest quality health care to the greatest number of people at the lowest possible cost. And none of us could do it alone. It took a lot of individuals with different abilities, talents, and interests to assure that the people that we served had access to the health care that they needed. This mission, along with the focus on the communities we served, brought a broader focus for the entire company, broader than just health care. It developed the role of the company as a good corporate citizen. Blue Cross became an active participant in the civic life of our city and state. I had the privilege, along with my wife, Judy, of participating in a number of places, a terrific number of terrific organizations in Chicago that made our community a better place to live and to work. Of course, Judy, as a long-term first-grade teacher, already understood well the benefits and rewards of helping others. These common passions and commitments are important elements in our lives that we have been able to share. The good news now for us is that in Chicago, there is a community and civic infrastructure that has allowed us to maintain our participation in the life and well-being of our community well beyond our official retirement dates. We both remain active in a number of charitable, civic organizations, and will continue as long as we can make a difference. For the members of our audience who still have their careers ahead of them, I would say the most important thing is to do something that you truly enjoy. And whatever that may be, try and be the very best in your chosen field. As Martin Luther King once said, and Frank, I did vary from Abraham Lincoln, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, "Here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well." For us, life is very good. I share it all with Judy, my wife and best friend, and with our two great children, our daughter Megan and our son Ryan, who are now accomplishing amazing things in their own lives. And finally, the true pleasure is that over these years I had and still have the privilege of working with people like all of you, where together we work to make our world just a little bit better. Thank you very much.
Wise advice, Raymond. Thank you. Our final student presenter tonight is Rachel Nugent, who will introduce Dr. Joanne Smith. Rachel is an 8th grader in the International Baccalaureate program at Pierce Middle School. She's on the debate team and the swim team. Rachel enjoys literature and public speaking and wants to go to college and possibly become a prosecutor. Please welcome to the stage, Rachel Nugent.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Tonight, I'm excited to introduce Dr. Joanne Smith, President and CEO of the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, the #1 rehabilitation hospital in the country. Dr. Smith hasn't always been a CEO. She was born on New Year's Day in Detroit, the 7th of 9 children. Her parents were hardworking, her father was a small business owner, and her mom worked at home caring for the kids. Dr. Smith shared a bedroom with her 4 sisters, so she quickly learned how to stick up for herself. Dinners were a competitive sport. In the large family of 11 people, she knew she had to develop her own voice and direction. She always did well in school, especially in art and science. She knew she wanted to help sick people heal, but wasn't so sure if she wanted to be a doctor or a nurse. At the end of her organic chemistry class, her teacher asked to buy her personal notebook because her notes were so good. He wanted to use them to guide the plan for his organic chemistry book. That was that. She decided to go into medicine. It wasn't until she was in medical school that she realized what type of doctor she wanted to be. In 1987, she met a teen girl with spina bifida, a condition at birth. The girl had no legs, so she walked with her hands. This girl was given wooden legs to make her look more normal in her wheelchair in public so people wouldn't stare at her, but it also took away her ability to walk. This made Dr. Smith sad, but determined to help people find and celebrate their own abilities. Dr. Smith earned her medical doctorate and got married to Rory Rupicki, the love of her life, in 1988. She kept her easy last name, though. Then she started her medical residency in rehabilitation at Northwestern University, seeing patients at the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. That was back in 1988, and she never left. When she finished residency in 1992, she became an attending doctor there and took on progressively more responsibilities. Also, she found time to earn her MBA from the University of Chicago. In 2006, she became CEO of RIC. Since then, she has led the hospital forward in big ways, which I'll tell you about in just a minute. But first, you should also know that Dr. Smith and Rory have a great family too. Their first child, Claire, came just a day before her MBA graduation. Her son, Michael, was born in 2002. She loves being a doctor mom to both. However, these accomplishments didn't come easily. When Dr. Smith became CEO, she faced several hard challenges. From a management standpoint, RIC needed some fixing at first. She also knew she needed to define the hospital's vision. The mission was solid, but where was it headed? Dr. Smith came up with a big plan to change rehabilitation medicine for the better. Her idea? Helping doctors and scientists work together in a team for every patient. This team approach had never been done before, but she knew it would lead to better and faster recoveries and even cures for patients. Her team of 2,000 employees was in. They were excited about being a part of it, so Dr. Smith envisioned success and worked hard to make it come true. She raised hundreds of millions of dollars for the future of the old RIC to give birth to the new Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, the first hospital in the world to bring science to patients faster through something called translational research. She also changed the name of the hospital to help people think about ability instead of disability. We thank Dr. Smith for helping people, for making brave choices, and for being a pioneer. Please welcome Dr. Joanne Smith.
Good evening. To be in the company of, well, first of all, let me say, Rachel, you killed it. You really did a beautiful job, and I would not like to be opposing you in your future career as a prosecutor. But to be in the company tonight of such distinguished honorees and to be added to the list of Story's business leaders is a very moving and humbling moment for me. Thank you one and all for coming tonight, and a hearty thanks to Junior Achievements Chairman Tom Richards, President Sandy Daffy, Director Natalie Albright, and a special thank you to all of the Junior Achievement participants here tonight. For your participation, it means that you're already leaders and that your light will only get brighter in this world. I also warmly thank the many friends and really mentors out there tonight in this crowd, and especially friends and board members, Mike Kaiser and Michael Krasny, and by the way, both esteemed past recipients of this award, for their joint nomination of me, much to my surprise. It was an incredible surprise. Beautiful. To my beloved family here, sitting near the front, my true love, my husband of 29 years, Rory Rapicki. And yes, Smith is an easier name than Rapicki. We did think about Smith-Picky or Ripith, but we chose to just stay our own way. But both of us love our extraordinary, wonderful children, Claire and Michael. You three are the wind beneath my wings, and we succeed together through our patience, mutual support, and faithful love of each other. I also tonight want to salute the late Brenda Barnes and her family here tonight, Brian, Aaron, Jeff, and others. I've gotten to know you through that chapter, as Brenda called it, in her life. Brenda was a board member. I got very close to her. She became a dear friend. But most importantly, she really was a beautiful soul. And Brenda, I continue to honor your spirit. I miss you and love you. What an uncanny wink from God, Brenda, that we're both here tonight, together being recognized by Junior Achievement. Finally, I thank you all for recognizing my leadership, and I hope to convey remarks tonight that show how the free enterprise system is alive and very well in the healthcare market. So yes, I'm a physician with an MBA, but I liken my role to that of a behavioral economist or behavioralist in my sector. In healthcare, competition is fierce. Better care, better outcomes. Buyers are what we call patients. Suppliers are what we call the people who treat them or care for them, doctors, talent, insurance companies, and others. We are nonprofit. My organization is nonprofit. We are not government controlled. And yes, we must make a quote-unquote profit to stay in business. But we call it gain because the difference is we deploy all of that profit or gain right back into the care of patients or the support of the facility. In the context of a system that allows economic freedom of choice and fair opportunity, I want to share my thoughts on the crucial importance of leadership, whatever you do, leadership and having a vision for yourself or for your organization. Shortly after I was asked to be the CEO of what was then the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, the outright best specialty in the United States, arguably in the world, I began to ask doctors and teachers, leaders, and others, what's our vision? For the prior 17 years, I had served in various roles, progressively taking on greater responsibility, and I had really our mission embedded in my heart. That was not the issue. I knew what we were doing every day, 24/7. But time and time again, my question about vision was responded in silence. How can any company, or for that matter, any person, aim toward greatness or mastery in your field if you don't have a vision? Well, you can't. You can survive, perhaps you can maintain, but you can't expect to grow in achievement and greatness without a vision. So what's a vision? A vision describes where you're headed. It's a preferred ideal state of your future. It's not today, and it has two main functions. It points you in the right direction, and it motivates you personally and your team. A good vision is ambitious. It should energize you. You should want to move toward it. It shakes up the status quo. It's not safety. It stretches you in your organization to achieve, to reach for better. And it keeps everyone moving forward, even against sometimes discouraging odds. A strong vision for yourself or your business is the single most powerful motivator you can have. If your vision is vivid and meaningful, it will be able to bring astounding things to life and in the people who surround it. If it's lacking, bland, hard to understand, murky, there's no level of resources that will get people off their rear ends to try and move forward. So, How's a vision different than a mission? Well, a mission or purpose is focused on what you do every day, what your organization has to accomplish, what every person has to come and do and deliver together. They go home, that mission is delivered. In my instance, nobody goes home, it's 24/7. But it differs from a vision that has tangible results that you can measure every day. Did you deliver what you said you were supposed to do? In short, it's your purpose. It's oriented towards the present. It's what your company does every day. The vision is your future. It's what your company will be doing in the most idealistic but realistic terms. In my organization, the hospital, mission was our bedrock for 60 years. There was no question. I knew exactly what our mission was, to provide the very best and safest care to every patient every single day, 24/7. But we had no declared future state. We had no vision. JA students tonight, and others of you young people in the audience, how many of you have a vision for yourself? Do you know where you're headed? Do you know what you want to become or achieve in life? What does your dream look like? I encourage you to think about that. It doesn't have to be clear now, but declaring your vision at some point and making it big and bold in your heart is what's going to motivate you to become exactly the best at what you can be. Your vision is your own promise. It's your own promise to yourself. It's your promise to the people around you and to what you choose to do. And thank goodness in this country, you can determine your own vision. It's not the government that determines what you do. Don't give that up. So then your mission becomes what you must do, students, every day, day in and day out, concretely to measure towards, marching towards your vision, and eventually to fulfill your ideal future. To discover your vision or the vision of your business, you have to develop a mindset that allows you to be open to clues that you can sort of watch, lessons, little gifts of insight that come out of the blue. Pay attention to them. Write them down. Have a book. Sometimes you might not understand how they fit, but the puzzle will work together. What are you good at? What excites you? What are your clients or customers, or in my case, patients, telling you with their words, or sometimes not with their words, with their actions, sometimes with their eyes, with their touch? What's happening in the environment? You have to look outside the window. You can't isolate yourself. In 2006, when I became the CEO, I began to collect these little data points in different ways than when I was a physician. They were different. People spoke to me different. I had an example of a young man who was paralyzed from the neck down due to an accident, and he came to me with great gratitude at the end of his long stay in his wheelchair, with all his equipment ready to go out into the world and be as able-bodied as he could be using a wheelchair. And he said to me, he was grateful, we had great care, he can't imagine going anyplace else, but then he said, you know, Dr. Smith, if you could just figure out how I could move my thumb, I know with today's technology and engineering, I could do anything. I can drive a car, I can control my environment, I can communicate. Just, will you figure that out for me? It must not be that hard. And I had other examples, many powerful, more powerful examples that became my little clues. They wanted more from RIC at the time, and they were telling me as a leader, go figure it out. We were the best in the world at what we did. We were earning all these accolades, but it wasn't good enough. Although we have grateful, wonderful patients, they wanted more. They wanted to do more. They wanted to focus on what they couldn't do and be able to help them achieve it. I was also looking outside the organization at that time. It was happening it was happening to be an incredible moment in medicine. Frankly, currently it still is. It turns out that I sensed that the oyster of science, particularly neuroscience, was just opening, and that is truly the case. It was just beginning to crack. Furthermore, smart devices, technology, far-out materials like energy storing materials, magnetic materials, super strong materials, super lightweight materials, all these other tools were coming to bear and could be used in our field. And in neuroscience, knowledge of how the brain works was increasing and, frankly, blowing away almost everything I had learned in medical school about the brain, so-called indisputable facts. For example, we had learned in medical school, and it wasn't that long ago for me, that once you injure the brain, that anatomy is fixed. Forget it. You can't get it back. We now know that is not true. The brain rewires, it's smart, and it does so until you die. It's faster when you're younger, but it happens even when you're 90 or 100 years old. Hence, my little collections of data as a new CEO, insights and lessons coalesced to a strong force inside me, really a calling of my conscience to channel the patient's voice. I began to feel a sense of urgency, incredible urgency, as well as fearlessness to pursue a bold new direction for an organization that was already at the top of its game, already had all the brand, and was 60 years strong. Looking back, I know that I was infused with love, with passion, confidence, and frankly, with a lot of guidance from God. The one universal requirement of an effective leader, an effective leadership of an organization, is to catalyze a clear and shared vision of that organization and to secure the commitment of your team surrounding that vision and pursuing that vision. After planning and collaborating with my senior leaders in medicine, science, and management, we declared that rehabilitation was a process, but ability should be our outcome. To advance human ability, to be the global source of science-driven breakthroughs in human ability. So implementing the vision began with the formulation of a strategy and a plan. So we needed a new facility that would enable it. It would be designed to integrate scientists and clinicians embedded and surrounded around the patient 24/7, because we believed that if scientists were working with clinicians with the patient at the center, that we would better understand what the patient's needs were, what the problems they wanted us to solve, and we'd do it better and faster. And we were going to measure everything, because we needed to prove to the Blue Cross and Blue Shields of the world and other organizations that what we were doing actually was valid and measurable and could make a meaningful outcome in patients. The building would be bright. It had to be filled with natural light, energy, contemporary art, uplifting color and graphics, different than a hospital. And because it was unique in the world, it would be a magnet for smart and committed people. It would be filled with the world's best talent: doctors, nurses, scientists, therapists, support staff, management, sweepers of the floor, housekeepers, trash collectors, and others. So today, the result of more than a decade of planning, hard work, innovation, the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, a novel new research hospital, is already changing the world. We opened the 1.2 million square foot, $550 million building just a little over 200 days ago, and we freely share our breakthroughs with the world. Financial gains are invested back into our mission and our vision, and our results are already enabling patients to achieve ability and live happily productive lives. And as a result, people choose us. We get patients from all over the world, and that is growing. In fact, yesterday we were counting. In the last 24 months, we have received patients from over 120 countries. You know how many countries there are in the world? 181. So we are close. We're receiving people from all over the world. And we treat patients who have no ability to pay. It's a responsibility we take with great gratitude. Helping others is a central responsibility for every business, as you've heard about tonight from each of the laureates. In closing, I call you all to pay attention to the lessons that will lead you to the vision of your future. The Wright brothers had a vision to fly, and they figured it out. Jonas Salk's vision was to cure polio, and he did. Mae Jamison's vision was to be an astronaut, and so she is. And how about that Christopher Columbus? He had a vision of a new world, and he discovered America. History is filled with examples even today. I bet all of you can think of several. How about that iPhone resting probably in everybody's pocket or purse tonight? Do we think that was born out of government control? In this nation offering the individual freedom of democracy, it's your right and your responsibility, students and others, to choose your future. So define it, then believe in it with all your heart, build faith in your ability, and go confidently in the direction of your vision. I can't wait to see what our future holds in your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne. You're such an inspiration. Tonight we've celebrated leaders who have left an indelible mark on the history of our city and changed it for the better. We've also had a chance to look at those leaders through the eyes of our future, today's students. I'd like to thank our 4 student speakers for their talented and enthusiastic storytelling. The 4 of you have helped to paint a picture of each laureate's life. Also, a thanks to the Hester Junior High School and Franklin Park, the student ambassadors who greeted you as you came in. So let's hear it. Let's have another round of applause for the laureates and the inductees into the 2017 Chicago Business Hall of Fame. Brenda C. Barnes, Frank M. Clark, Raymond F. McCaskey, and Dr. Joanne C. Smith. Congratulations. I'd like to invite Aaron Werner from Hester Junior High back to the stage for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Junior Achievement would like to thank the presenting platinum sponsors, CDW and Conagra Brands, and the gold sponsors, BMO, Harris Bank, Susan and Richard Lenny, JP Morgan Chase, and PepsiCo for their generosity. Because of JA's programs, all the students involved in tonight's event have been able to learn important life lessons about work readiness, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. With the help of these programs, students like me have the knowledge to succeed, just like the laureates we inducted tonight. If you have felt inspired by the stories of all the laureates, please consider donating to Junior Achievement so that more students can benefit from their programs. You can get out your cell phones and make a secure gift to JA by texting "Give to JA" to 50155. A gift of $100 provides the kit of materials for a classroom. $500 will sponsor a full classroom, including the volunteer and their training. And a generous gift of $5,000 will allow JA to teach programs to an entire school. A gift in any amount is greatly appreciated. Again, text "Give to JA" using the number 50155. There will also be pledge cards upstairs at your dinner table, along with JA's annual report. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. Your support of this event shows that you believe in the power of education and the power of junior achievement. Please kindly proceed upstairs to the second floor in the Chicago room of the buffet dinner and dessert reception. Have a great night.